It was the kind of afternoon where everything felt settled. The Seattle sky outside was a soft steel gray, the type of color that made people linger in cafes a little longer and speak in hushed tones on sidewalks. In her office, high above the city, Olivia sat behind a desk that gleamed with quiet authority. The walls were lined with minimalist art. The scent of lavender diffused gently in the background. Her world, at least in this space, was calm, controlled, and earned. 30 years old, head of strategy, silent co-founder of Pacific Teritech, one of the most innovative clean energy startups in the region. She wasn't famous. She didn't need to be. While Jessica's Instagram celebrated brunches and boyfriends, Olivia was securing patent deals and finalizing a $47 million funding round. But her name was still invisible in the one place she craved to be seen, her family. Her phone buzzed once, then again. She reached for it almost absent-mindedly. Notifications from her assistant, calendar pings, and then her breath caught. Dad! Just that name sitting alone on the screen made her chest tighten. She hadn't heard from him in weeks. Not a "how are you doing?" Not even a "congratulations" when her company had been featured in Forbes Tech Weekly. Still, she answered, "Hello?" There was no warmth in his reply, no pause to ask about her health, her work, or her life. His voice was like a cold breeze slipping through a door left open too long. "Jessica's bringing her boyfriend home for your mother's birthday. He's someone important, speaks well, comes from a good family." Silence. Olivia swallowed. "And you're," he continued, his tone lowering as if the word itself was distasteful, "it's not exactly something we're comfortable bringing up." There was another pause, not because he was hesitating, but because he wanted his next words to land like a final verdict. "It's probably best if you don't come." Just like that. No screaming, no explanation. Only a quiet disownment, polished, professional, and heartless. Olivia didn't cry. Not yet. She just sat there in her tailored suit in her corner office, in the company she helped build from nothing, realizing perhaps for the first time that success means nothing if the people you love refuse to see it. The line went quiet. Not because the call dropped, but because her father was waiting for her to say something, to beg maybe, to apologize for a success he had never understood. Olivia opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her throat burned dry and tight, like invisible fingers were wrapped around it. She couldn't tell if it was grief, rage, or that familiar ache she had spent years burying. Finally, she managed to whisper, "What are you saying?" And then, with the finality of a slammed door, he delivered the blow. "If you still insist on coming, then don't call me your father." Click. The line went dead. Silence swallowed the room. Olivia stared at her phone, still held in her hand, like a live grenade that hadn't gone off properly. It was a simple sentence, 11 words, but those 11 words shattered something she didn't know could still break. In her 30 years of life, Olivia had faced rejection from investors, betrayal from colleagues, even brutal breakups. But nothing cut like hearing the man who raised you strip away your place in the family with one sentence. Her heart wasn't racing. It was numb, like her entire body had gone into emotional lockdown. Then another vibration. Her screen lit up again. This time not from her father, from her banking app. Transaction complete, $39,768. 00. Automatic transfer to Parent Utility Support Fund. She blinked. It was the 24th consecutive monthly payment. Electricity, water, internet. For the home she no longer belonged to. For the people who now wanted her erased. She let the phone slide from her fingers and land softly on the desk. And for a moment, there was only silence. And in that silence, something inside Olivia quietly died, and something else began to wake up. She sat still. No tears, no movement. only the quiet hum of the city beyond her window. And one question, one brutal, heavy question, lodged itself in her chest like a shard of glass. What am I, if I'm not even good enough to sit at my mother's birthday table? That thought, that single stabbing thought, was louder than her father's voice, louder than the silence that followed, louder than the $39,000 she'd sent without a single thank you. Was it the way she looked? Was it because she was single? Was it because her work didn't come with a polished title her parents could brag about over wine and wedding buffets? She had built a company. She had built a life. But in their eyes, none of it was shiny enough. None of it was Jessica. Jessica, the family's golden child, the one who cried over a breakup and got a cake for it. The one who lost 3 jobs in 2 years, but still got introduced to every distant relative as our bright future. Meanwhile, Olivia, she wrote checks, paid bills, and sat in the background of family photos slightly off-center, as if even the camera knew she didn't belong. She leaned back in her chair, staring at the ceiling tiles as if they held answers. The sting in her chest wasn't just sadness. It was the weight of realization. Maybe they never really saw me at all. Maybe I was only valuable when I was invisible and useful. And that realization, that was the betrayal. Not the words, not the phone call, but the undeniable fact that blood had boundaries, and hers had just been crossed. Long before Olivia ever had an office with floor-to-ceiling windows, long before the seed funding, before the title co-founder meant anything, she had been just the quiet girl who fixed the Wi-Fi. High school Olivia didn't go to parties. She didn't post prom photos or collect hearts on social media. She collected code logic, discipline. By 17, she'd already won a regional scholarship in software architecture, but at the family dinner table, her father had simply muttered, "You're good with computers. You should help Jessica with her phone." Jessica, the golden child, the girl with good hair, big eyes, and a rotating list of forgettable boyfriends. Her tears were events. Her breakups were national holidays. One time, this wasn't a joke. Jessica broke up with a guy who had cheated on her. The family threw her a healing dinner. There were candles, wine, her favorite lasagna. Meanwhile, the night Olivia received her college acceptance letter with a full ride, her mother looked up from stirring the soup and said, "That's great, honey. Could you set up the new modem before dinner?" No celebration, no cake, no "we're proud of you." Just utility. She was useful, not exceptional. Later in college, Olivia would turn a dorm room project into the prototype for Pacific Teritech. By 23, she pitched to her first VC. By 25, she signed her first government contract. And still, her family would tell people at church, "Jessica's figuring things out." And Olivia, she plays around with gadgets, something in tech. That sentence, "something in tech," was the entire summary of Olivia's blood, sweat, and years. It started with a phone call, not a demand. Not a plea, just a soft voice, her mother's voice, one late Thursday evening. Olivia was at her desk reviewing solar module cost estimates when her phone rang. The screen read, "Mom." She picked up. "Hey, sweetie," her mother began gently. "I didn't want to bother you. It's just the bills are piling up again. Retirement income's tight this month." A pause. "Could you maybe help us out just this once? Just until things smooth out again?" Olivia didn't hesitate. Of course she'd help. She had the means. She wasn't drowning in debt like Jessica or clinging to dead-end internships. She had a growing company, a steady income. So she said yes. She set up automatic transfers to pay the household utilities: electric, water, internet, trash. It was supposed to be temporary. 1 month became 2. 2 became 6. 6 became 24. 24 months of quiet, invisible support. Over $39,000 paid without ever being asked twice. And still, no one ever said thank you. Not once. Her mother never brought it up. Her father acted as if the lights turned on by magic. And Jessica? She just complained the internet was too slow when she visited. Jessica, who still lived rent-free at home for a year after college. Jessica, who once spent $600 on eyelash extensions, but never chipped in on the electricity she used while binge-watching Netflix on the family's 65-inch TV. There was no gratitude, only expectation. And Olivia, she stayed silent. Because for a long time, she believed that if she kept giving quietly, one day someone would notice. They didn't. The screen was still glowing from the banking notification. $39,768, 24 payments, 24 months, 24 times she chose their comfort over her silence. But not this time. Olivia's fingers hovered over her phone. She didn't cry, she didn't scream. She simply scrolled to the recurring transfers section of the app. It was all there. Power bill parents, water utility parents, internet service parents. Each line carried not just money, but memory. A quiet plea behind every charge. Maybe this time they'll see me. Maybe this time they'll say thank you. They never did. She selected the first one. Cancel. A small gray confirmation button appeared. She hesitated half a second, then pressed it. Gone. One by one, she went down the list. Power, water, internet. Click, click, click. With every cancellation, her heart sank deeper. But beneath the sadness, there was something else growing in the silence. Resolve. She wasn't doing this to punish anyone. She wasn't cutting them off. She was simply choosing herself for once. This isn't revenge, she whispered under her breath. This is survival. And when the last payment was removed, Olivia didn't feel powerful. She felt empty. But that emptiness, it was honest. For the first time in years, she had stopped bleeding herself dry just to stay connected. And that was its own kind of healing. The smell of roasted chicken probably filled the house by now. Laughter bouncing off the same walls that once echoed with Olivia's childhood. The old oak table would be crowded, plates clinking, wine being poured, Jessica glowing in the center like always. The birthday cake from that overpriced bakery on 4th Street would be sitting on the counter. Candles already lit. A room full of family toasting to a mother's life as if her firstborn daughter didn't exist. Olivia didn't need to imagine it. She knew it by heart. She had seen it every year. Only this year, she was finally absent. And yet, she didn't cry. She didn't pace or check her phone every 5 seconds. She simply sat in her living room, wrapped in an oversized cardigan, fingers curled around a mug of black coffee gone cold. Outside her window, rain tapped gently against the glass. It wasn't a storm. It wasn't angry. It was just steady, like her heart, tired but beating. She stared into the cup, the liquid inside reflecting nothing but shadows. She had everything she ever worked for, but tonight she wasn't invited to be a daughter, and that hurt in a way success could never fix. It started with one buzz, then another, then 6 more back to back. Olivia glanced at her phone. Her mother. Her father. Jessica. All texting. All at once. Olivia, the power is out. Can you check the account? No water. People are arriving. Fix this now. Internet's down. Guests are here. What is going on? She didn't move, just stared at the glowing screen, the frantic messages lighting up like flares from a burning house, a house she no longer lived in. 3 weeks. Exactly 3 weeks since she had canceled the automatic payments. Not out of spite, not for revenge, but because she was done being invisible while still being expected to save the day. And now the day had come, the birthday celebration, where she had been labeled too embarrassing to attend. And suddenly, her absence had a price. No power, no water, no internet, no Olivia. She gently placed the phone face down on the coffee table, took a slow sip of her now lukewarm coffee, and listened, not to noise, but to the silence of being needed only when everything else failed. The screen lit up. Incoming video call, Aunt Lauren. Olivia paused. Aunt Lauren was the only one who never made her feel like a disappointment. She never asked when she'd get married, never commented on her long work hours, never compared her to Jessica. She just cared. So Olivia answered. Her aunt's kitchen came into view, soft yellow light spilling across old cabinets, a cracked tile backsplash behind the stove, and that squeaky cupboard Olivia used to sneak cookies from as a kid. But something felt different tonight. Voices in the background, shadows moving, laughter, clinking dishes, the pop of a wine bottle opening. "You're not going to pay it, are you?" Aunt Lauren's voice was gentle, not accusing, just real. Olivia looked straight into the camera, calm but unwavering. "Dad's the one who told me not to come," she said. "He told me, if I did, not to call him my father anymore." In the background, the noise swelled. Then her mother's voice cut through, loud and sharp. "Tell her I'm ashamed of her, on my birthday of all days!" Then her father's, "It's just some bills. What kind of daughter holds a grudge over money?" Then an uncle chiming in, "Poor Jessica, imagine having a sister like that." And finally, Jessica herself. She stepped into view, arms crossed, lips twisted in contempt. She actually answered. Wow. Mom's been crying all day, and she doesn't even care. Olivia didn't flinch. She'd heard it all before. Different night, same script. She reached for the button to end the call, and then he walked into the frame. A man, dark blazer, tailored, shined dress shoes, clean cut, confident, professional. He froze mid-step, eyes locked on Olivia, then flicked toward the room, back to Olivia again. "Wait, is that Olivia?" Everyone turned. "That's my boss." Silence. Complete, breathless silence. Hudson blinked once, twice. He was still staring at the screen like he had just seen a ghost. Olivia didn't move, didn't smirk, didn't even raise an eyebrow. She just met his gaze through the screen, calm, quiet, and completely in control. Jessica turned to him confused. The entire room paused, forks halfway to mouths, wine glasses frozen mid-air. "Hudson?" Jessica's voice cracked slightly. He finally spoke, soft, stunned. "That's Olivia?" "She's my boss." Gasps rippled through the dining room like a dropped glass on marble. Someone dropped a spoon. An aunt clutched her pearls. One of the uncles actually coughed on his wine. And then came the whispers. "Did he say boss? Wait, what? That Olivia? I thought she just fixed computers or something?" Hudson looked around, suddenly aware that the floor beneath him had shifted. He cleared his throat, then turned back toward the screen. "Olivia runs Pacific Teritech. She co-founded it. I've reported to her for months." His tone wasn't proud. It was matter-of-fact, like he was correcting a very big, very embarrassing mistake. And he was. Olivia didn't say a word. She didn't need to. She had already been erased from the table. Now she had just rewritten the room. Silence. Not the kind that gently falls between conversations. This silence slammed into the room like a wall of ice. You could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the slight clink of a fork hitting a plate. Someone shifted in their chair, but even that sounded too loud. Olivia remained calm on the screen. Still, measured, unshakable. Jessica's jaw hung open, but no sound came out. She looked from Hudson to the phone screen and back again, as if trying to glitch reality into something she could control. Their father, the man who said, "Don't call me your daughter," stood frozen, fork still in hand. A small piece of chicken skewered on it, forgotten mid-air. Their mother blinked, then blinked again, as if somehow hearing it twice might change the meaning. Hudson took a breath. "Yes," he said clearly, "I work at Pacific Teritech. Olivia is one of the company's co-founders. She's my direct superior." He didn't sound embarrassed. He didn't sound proud. He sounded factual, clean, clear, like someone finally setting the record straight. Around the table, the whispers returned. But now they were slower, softer, like people trying to recalculate everything they thought they knew. Co-founder, "Wait, like," she started it. "You mean Olivia, the one who didn't get invited?" Every word was a ripple cracking through the perfect image the family had built. Every second of silence screamed one thing louder and louder. They were wrong. About her, about everything. The silence was unbearable. But Olivia, she was calm, still seated, still in control. She didn't blink. She didn't flinch. She just held Hudson's gaze for another second, long enough to let the truth settle in the room like smoke after a fire. Then, slowly, she nodded. Not out of pride, not to prove anything, just to say, yes, what he said is true. I am exactly who you chose to ignore. Then, with one quiet tap of her thumb, the screen went black. She ended the call. No grand speech, no I told you so, no tears, just silence. The kind of silence that doesn't ask for justice because it already arrived. In that moment, Olivia didn't just reclaim her voice, she let the truth speak louder than she ever could. 2 weeks passed, no messages, no calls, no apology. And then a knock on the door. Olivia had just gotten home from work. She hadn't even taken off her shoes yet. The sky was a dull gray, and the smell of rain lingered in the hallway. She opened the door, and there they were, her mother and father, each holding a small suitcase, faces pale, eyes tired, clothes slightly wrinkled like they'd been sitting in a station too long or hadn't slept in days. No phone call first, no warning, just there. Her mother spoke first. We thought maybe it was time to talk. Family's family, Olivia, and sometimes we lose our way. Olivia didn't move, didn't smile, didn't step aside just yet. There was no screaming, no dramatic tears. Just two people who once pushed her out, now standing at her door asking to come in. And what surprised Olivia most, she didn't feel triumph. She didn't even feel satisfaction. She felt tired. Like she had already played this scene out too many times in her head, and it had never ended with a suitcase or the words, "We're sorry." They sat in her living room, cups of untouched tea cooling between them. Small talk faded fast. And then her father cleared his throat the way he always did when a favor was coming. "We've been thinking, maybe you could help us out a bit. $2,000 a month isn't much for someone like you." He said it casually, like it was a Netflix subscription, like it was nothing. Olivia didn't respond right away. She just looked at him, looked at her mother, looked at the two people who had told her not to come home, who now sat in her house calculating her love in dollars. "What about Jessica?" she asked, her voice quiet but firm. Her father blinked. Her mother shifted in her seat. And then the excuses began. She's still recovering from the breakup. Her job situation's a little unstable right now. Olivia didn't argue. She'd heard all this before. But something inside her changed. For years, her worth had been tied to how much she gave, and now it was being measured like a monthly invoice. Her father laughed, short, hollow. "I mean, really," he said. "You'd make us sign something. We're your parents." Olivia didn't flinch. "If I'm expected to give money every month, then I need my name on the deed, or at least a legal agreement of co-ownership." Silence. Her mother opened her mouth. "That's not how family works." But Olivia raised a hand gently and cut her off. "Exactly," she said, "because this isn't family. It's a transaction." She wasn't angry. She wasn't raising her voice. She was simply clear. For years, she'd paid without being asked. For years, she'd been the invisible backbone. But this time, if they wanted her help again, they'd have to respect her as more than just a wallet. Her father's hand slammed the table. "Unbelievable! This is how you talk to your own parents? After everything we did for you, all we're asking is a little help now. You want to take our house?" His voice cracked the air like a whip. But Olivia didn't flinch, didn't even blink. She simply stood. "You told me not to come to my own mother's birthday. You called me an embarrassment. You said I was no longer your daughter." She took a breath. And now you want to negotiate rent in a house I don't even live in? Silence. Even the clock on the wall seemed to pause. Her father's face burned red. Her mother's eyes darted toward the floor. Olivia walked to the door. Calm, still. And then, I think it's time for you both to leave my home. No shouting, no drama, just truth spoken with spine. They didn't argue, not this time. They picked up their bags and walked out. For the first time ever, Olivia didn't feel like a daughter begging to be loved. She felt like a woman who just set herself free. 2 years. No birthday calls, no we miss you, not even a Christmas card. Olivia didn't expect a miracle. She had stopped hoping for things like closure or remorse. But on a random Tuesday afternoon, her phone buzzed. The name made her blink twice. Jessica. The last time they saw each other, Jessica was standing in Aunt Lauren's kitchen throwing daggered words across a video call. Now, hey, hope you're well. Do you think you could write me a quick letter of recommendation? Hudson's company just posted an opening. Olivia stared at the screen. No, I'm sorry. No, I was wrong. Just need. Just want. Just me, me, me. She didn't reply. She didn't delete the message either. She just put the phone down and got back to her meeting. Because for the first time in years, Olivia wasn't the girl waiting to be chosen. She had already chosen herself. Olivia never hit reply. Not to Jessica's message, not to the silence that had stretched from her family for 2 years. She didn't delete anyone. She didn't curse anyone. She just lived. When her best friend asked why she didn't respond, Olivia simply said, "Because I don't owe them anything anymore." I used to think they'd wake up, that one day they'd say, "We were wrong." But not everyone sees their reflection when you hold up a mirror. There was no bitterness in her voice, only clarity, and maybe a little sadness, but not the kind that breaks you, the kind that frees you. Because Olivia had finally learned peace isn't what you get when others change, it's what you claim when you stop waiting. Olivia didn't post a revenge glow-up. She didn't write think pieces about cutting off toxic family. She simply lived. She found joy in morning coffee with her team, in long walks with her golden retriever Luca, in late-night coding sessions with her partner, who knew how to love her without asking her to shrink. No one praised her for paying bills. No one punished her for saying no. They just saw her, not for what she gave, but for who she was. One night, as she laughed at a dinner table filled with friends and real conversation, someone asked, "Do you ever miss them?" She looked out the window. City lights blinked like quiet stars, and she answered, not with anger, not with sorrow. "No, I miss the person I used to pretend to be, but I don't miss them." Because sometimes loving yourself is the loudest thing you'll ever do, even if you do it in silence. It wasn't the silence that hurt, not the empty birthdays, not even the moment her father said, "Don't call me Dad." What hurt was everything before that, the years Olivia spent earning invisible medals, paying bills no one acknowledged, sending gifts no one thanked her for, showing up, staying quiet, dimming her light, just to be allowed, to belong. She thought if she gave enough, they'd finally say, "We're proud of you." But they never did, because the people she was trying to win didn't know how to love anything that didn't flatter them. And that's what shattered her, not being unloved, but realizing she had to beg for it. That night, Olivia stood by her apartment window, rain capping gently against the glass, city sounds in the distance, warm tea in her hand. She whispered as if to her younger self, "I'm sorry we spent so long trying to be enough for people who never were." And in that whisper was freedom. Olivia didn't storm out of their lives. She didn't slam doors or throw ultimatums. She just stopped lowering her voice. She stopped explaining her worth, stopped begging to be understood, stopped bleeding to feed people who never once asked if she was okay. And in that stillness, in that silence that followed the storm, one question remained. She asked it quietly, Not to accuse, not to guilt trip, but because part of her still wondered, was I wrong to finally stand up for myself? There was no answer, only the wind brushing against her window. Only the soft clink of her teacup on the saucer. But in that unanswered question was power, because sometimes the most radical act of love is loving yourself enough to walk away. A family is not built on guilt, or sacrifice you never agreed to, or love with conditions attached. A real family sees you, holds space for you, even when you have nothing left to give. Olivia had spent years trying to be good enough, quiet enough, useful enough, until one day she asked, "What if I don't have to prove my worth anymore?" And in that question, she found peace. She didn't need applause, she didn't need revenge. She just needed to finally come home, to herself. Family isn't where sacrifice is demanded. It's where you are valued, whether you give anything or not. In a world where we're taught to keep giving, keep pleasing, keep sacrificing for approval, Olivia's story reminds us of something powerful. You don't have to bleed to prove you belong. You don't have to stay to be a good daughter. And you don't owe love to those who weaponize your kindness. Family should be a space of safety, not silent suffering. So if you're watching this and you've ever felt unseen, unheard, unvalued, let this be your reminder. You are enough. And walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. If this story touched something deep inside you, if you saw a part of yourself in Olivia, then don't scroll away just yet. Hit subscribe, tap the notification bell, and join us for more stories that speak truth, healing, and self-worth. You deserve to be reminded of your value every single week.